Though, let me welcome our guest to the line. Kyle, good evening and welcome to you.
Hi, Kim.
So, Kyle Jantjies, let me introduce you first before we actually draw the information out of you that I'm excited to learn about, I must say. So you don't mind me giving your age away, right? Because you're not a girl. You're not going to be all sensitive. So if you've never met Kyle Jantjies, tonight you are going to meet him via the airwaves. He's a 26-year-old young eligible bachelor from Mitchell's Plain in Cape Town. He is a teacher. You teach which subjects, Kyle? Math?
Math and geography.
So he's a math and geography teacher, and you also have a degree in molecular biology.
Yes.
That's not our topic for tonight, but what exactly is molecular biology?
Molecular biology is focused on the DNA of an organism, so DNA extractions, PCR, amplification of DNA, phylogenetics, all those sorts of things.
So it's a study subject, basically, is what you're saying?
Yes.
So, now this is where it gets really interesting for me, because you teach study subjects, you've got a degree in a study subject, and yet you are an author of not just one but multiple books, and that is really the information I want to dig in this evening. So before we talk about, and tonight really, if you've just tuned in to Let's Talk Business, tonight we're going to talk about becoming an author. We're going to learn some of the basics, discover some of the joys and the challenges, and also some practical insights from somebody that has walked this journey, somebody like you and me. He hasn't had any, extreme life experiences like that we tend to think people have to write about. He just had a dream. So before we get there, Kyle, when did you write your first book?
Well, I wrote my first book in 2013 after I finished my matric exams.
Yeah.
I was waiting for my results. I got bored. I had an idea for a book, an adventure book. So I just started writing on a little tablet that I had received as valedictorian.
Mm-hmm.
So I began writing my first book on that, and it took me about a month.
1 month to write a whole book?
Yes.
Okay, so let's get into the practical thing of this now. How do you start? How do you actually start?
The best way to start, especially with your first book, is just to start. You start maybe with one paragraph, outlining maybe or giving a summary of the story that you want to write. What is the basics of the story, the plot, who's the main character, what's the end goal of the story.
Mm-hmm.
So you begin writing that. Once you have a nice structure planned, then you're free to flow.
Yeah. So, we can already say you've started when you finished your matric exam. So we can already say age isn't a factor. You don't have to wait until because, I have this vision of authors being somebody that has retired to some little dorpie where there's one street and very little distraction. And now with your spare time, you start writing. You don't have to be at that phase of life. You can be a young person straight out of school like you, or even in school still.
Yes, I've known a few authors who's like 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Wrote small books.
Yeah.
But it's books and it's published books.
Mm.
And they're making money off it. So you don't need to be an old person.
Yeah, and you don't, from an education perspective, I'm assuming there's no specific degree you have to study. So you don't have to have studied English literature or, whatever language, communications, anything like that. It's really just you and your ideas to get started.
If you have those degrees, great. It will help you a lot. But if you don't, and you're very good maybe perhaps in your languages, or you are willing to become better in your languages, then it doesn't matter about which degree that you have.
Mm-hmm.
You can just write.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about a career as an author, because, on Let's Talk Business, we focused a lot on different types of organizations, big business, small business, sports clubs, all of these things. And then there are side hustles as well. We looked at hobbies that can become careers. And I see writing books, being an author, very much as one of those things that could essentially start as a hobby, but it definitely has the potential to become your main income stream if you work at it really hard. Talk to us a little bit about a career as an author, how do you know if you have what it takes?
You never know if you have what it takes. All you need to do is trust and believe in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want it to become a business, then you obviously have to become business savvy. One of the things I've learned is that when you write, you put on your writer's cap.
Mm-hmm.
Afterwards, when you're done writing, now you put on your business cap and you have to learn how to sell what you write. Your product, you have to learn how to sell your product. And one of the best things about being a writer or being an author is the different avenues that you can take. One of the main reasons that I began, because I have a lot of ideas, but the main reasons I began writing is because you can do it without any starting capital.
Mm-hmm.
You can just start writing and then have your book published by some third party.
Mm-hmm.
So there's in the writing and the publishing industry, there are two types of publishers.
Yeah.
The first one is to be traditionally published, and this is the one that most people think of when they think of books being published.
Mm-hmm.
With this one, there is no cost. So when I began writing at 18, I had no money. That was the type of publishing that I looked for. There's no cost for you. Once you're done writing a book, you search for publishers, you send your books to them.
Mm-hmm.
If they read it and they like it and they think they can work with it, they'll accept you, they send you a contract, and then they publish the book for you.
Yeah.
There's no cost from you. You don't have any risk in it. And then based on every book that is sold, you get a royalty from it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say the book sells at for 100, the profit is 100 rand, and your royalty is at 20%. Every time a book is sold, you get 20% of the profit.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one benefit of it.
Is that, sorry to break your word, Kyle, is that something that is negotiated between you and the publisher? So there's no set rate for, like, this is your first book, your percentage is 20%. It would be a negotiation, I assume, between you and the publisher, what that commission or, that percentage is.
No, usually it is a set contract.
Okay.
Especially if it is your first book.
Yeah.
However, the other option is that you can get a literary agent.
Yes.
This is somebody now who does all your agent work for you. They find publishers for you, and they will initiate the contract. They will negotiate contracts for you.
Yeah.
Because the better contract that you get, the better they get paid.
Yes.
So their whole goal is to get better money, more money for you.
Okay, so let's just summarize that part. So you can start writing firstly, of course, with no startup capital required, because you've got to have the idea in your head, the vision in your heart, the experience, the story you're wanting to tell. You basically just you start writing, and then once your book is done, you can reach out to publishers for a publishing contract, and there's no upfront investment from your side. They sell it if they think it's something they can work with, and they pay you a percentage royalty.
Yes.
Okay.
Now the problem is a lot of people, they don't like the thing because as an author you put a lot of work and effort into your book, and now the publisher takes most of the profit. They take about 80%, 70% of the profit. But to be honest, I understand why they do it. They're the ones that's taking all the risk. If the book doesn't sell, they lost money. You lost nothing. So you have to weigh it up. That's why the second type of publishing, which is self-publishing, has become more popular because you get a lot more of your own royalties for your book. So self-publishing now has become popular. So the reason why it's become popular is you get, for example, if you're working with a company, you can maybe get 70%, 80%, or 100% of the royalties.
Yeah.
So all of that comes to you, unless you're using a platform, which means it goes a bit less. But the royalties that you get is much higher. The only problem is now there's a cost associated with it.
Yeah.
For example, there's two types of self-publishing. It's number one, where you can use a self-publishing company. One thing that I forgot to mention about the traditional publishers was that with the royalties, you also have to sell them your rights. So the rights to the book, you sell it to them. So let's say the book blows up and somebody wants to make a movie from it. They don't come to you, they go to the publishers.
Yeah.
Because you sold your rights to them. But now with self-publishing, you keep all the rights and you keep all the royalties, but all the cost are yours also.
Yes.
All the rest, you have to take it yourself.
So when we say cost, you're talking about printing, you're talking about marketing, all of that.
Printing, marketing, editing, proofreading, cover design, all of that stuff, all the costs come to you.
Mm-hmm.
So there's two types of self-publishers. It's number one is we use a self-publishing company.
Yeah.
I've done both types of self-publishing. In the first type, they do the cover designing for you. They do the editing and the proofreading. They do all of it. It's just you keep your rights, basically.
Yeah.
You pay them and you keep your rights.
Mm-hmm.
And then once the book is out, you keep all the profits also.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it costs around between, depending on who you have, it's about 14 to 20,000 to do with a company like that. The other option is to do all the outsourcing yourself, and I've done that option also.
Mm-hmm.
The benefit of that is it's much quicker. So last year I published 9 books, and the only reason that I could publish so quickly was because I was outsourcing everything myself.
Yeah.
As a cover designer, I find and I work personally with the cover designer, I pay them.
Yeah.
The editor, I find them personally, I pay them. Everybody that I need to work with, I work with them personally. I find them usually as freelancers on Design Designs, Fiverr, Upwork. So I find freelancers.
Yeah.
And once I've gotten them, they do all the work on those kind of things that I can't do myself, while I just focus on the writing.
Mm. So let's stop there. You published 9 books last year.
Yes.
And you still taught, and you still did everything else, and you're still studying, by the way, if I remember correctly. You're still studying as well?
Yes, I'm finishing my master's degree.
So how do you write 9 books in 1 year and do all of the other stuff?
Time management is important. So what I did was, when I get home from work, I get home around 4 o'clock, I take a nap, eat, I pray. At 11 o'clock, I start writing. So 11 p.m. to about 3 a.m., that's my writing time. In that time, I'll be writing. And then because I had a goal for 10 books for the year, I pushed myself. So I tried to get at least 5,000 words done a night. My books are generally around 60,000 words.
Yeah.
So 5,000 words a night. That will come about to how much? 20 days. And then with the 20 days, sometimes obviously there's rest days where you don't, right? So that usually pushes me up to a month per book. But I can tell you, at the end of the year, I was drained. I was drained, so I'm taking it a bit easier this year.
So, I mean, that is an important thing to note, because I think, a lot of times we want the accolade and we don't know what somebody has pushed through to get to where they are now. So at the age of 26, in 1 year alone, you published 9 books. So that's not withstanding the other books you've published before this. You've gone the different options. So you've done the research. I'm sure you've learned some hard lessons along the way as well. But most importantly, the hard work, the dedication, the commitment, the time management that you spoke about, those are all important things if you really want this to work for you as an income stream.
Definitely. Not just with all the writing and the creativity part of it, but then the one part now that I'm focusing mainly on this year is the marketing issue, because that is a whole different ballgame. Yeah. There's a lot for me to learn on that. I've tried Facebook ads, I've tried Amazon ads, I've tried all these different types of advertisements. I've worked on my newsletter, anything to get some publicity, some traffic to my books, and I'm learning every day. Yeah.
So Kyle, let's talk a little bit about you. We started chatting about the costs, or not the. You alluded to the cost of getting published. There's paying designers, editors, publishing companies, etc. Just sort of on an average for each of the options that you mentioned, what kind of cost does one have to consider? Is there ballpark one can work with?
Is this you're referring now to the self-publishing?
Yes.
Okay, so if you are working with a company, the company that I worked for, it was about 16,000 rand. So I paid that 16,000 rand over 6 months, as 6 months installment, so that came about to 3,000 rand per month. And I obviously had to budget for that.
Yes.
If I'm doing the outsourcing all myself, then it depends on what I value. So if I want a really, really good cover designer, then it costs me around roughly about 2,000 rand for a cover. But I have found some good designers, not amazing, but really good, for about 1,200, 800 rand, and some of them are very negotiable. So the excellent ones, they don't negotiate on the price. But the ones that are up and coming, who are still building their portfolios, and who have genuine skills, you can get them for about 800 rand. I have one that I work with usually on Upwork. So then that's for the cover designer. The main cost is editing. The editing costs a lot of money. I think the editors charge around, I'm not sure now, 1 rand 20 cents per word. There's the most I've paid for editing was about 9,000 rand.
Yeah.
That's now 9,000 rand for the book, which is a lot of money. Especially now, if you want to go out now, you can do self-editing where you edit the book yourself. But if you want to be more professional, usually you want to get another editor to see those things that you don't see.
Yes.
Like, I have friends that do a lot of proofreading for me, and those are friends that I really value because it takes a lot of time to read a book for somebody. So they'll proofread, they will tell me what they like about the story, about the structure, the plot, where I need to change some things. So the proofreaders help a lot, but if you want to be more professional, you're going to get an editor, which costs a lot of money.
Yeah. And I think the professionalism is the key word, because I do know people that have self-published books that didn't necessarily go that route of getting it professionally edited and that sort of thing. And, you know, if one must be honest with each other, there definitely are those mistakes that have crept in where you are like, you know, I've bought this to support this person, but it really, I wouldn't recommend someone else to pay the money because they're not going to get a product that I'm proud to sell them as a marketer.
Yes, at the end of the year, I made a post on my Instagram account. Excellence is sexy. Because I've found myself following pages that I have no interest in, but what they're doing is so attractive because it's excellence that they're showing.
Yes.
So if you put excellence into your work, it becomes attractive by itself.
Yeah. And, you know, if you've written a good book, I before we run out of time, I really want to touch on this. I mean, once it is now published, right? So you've written it, it's been edited, it's been marketed, and it's out there in the marketplace. What are some of the recurring costs that you need to look at? Because you're going to make money off this on an ongoing basis. It doesn't expire.
Yes, that's one of the things that I love about being an author. If I can be open and honest about this. Thus far, my costs have come up to about 37,000 rand in the last 2 years.
Yes.
37,000 rand. I've made only about 10,000 rand back. So I'm at a deficit. But I'm not in debt because I know how to budget.
Yeah.
But what I know is that for the rest of my life, and maybe for my children and my grandchildren, they will be able to benefit off this investment as a writer. That book can make money for ages, generations. So I'm not actually concerned about that.
Yeah.
But as a recurring cost, there aren't many recurring costs for books. Unless you're working with paperback. Yeah. If you're working with paperback books, print books.
Yes.
Every time you want to print a set, then you're going to incur costs because you have to pay for the printing before it's printed. So you pay for the printing. That's a cost that's very steep.
Yes.
This is why authors get very upset when people order books and then they don't buy it. They sit with that. The other one is if you're using distribution systems. For example, let's say you put your book on a site which distributes a thing, you're going to have to pay a storage cost. if you're going to sell ebooks, then the cost will only be commission cost.
Yeah.
Every time you sell a book, they take a commission from it. So there's a small cost, but it's only when it comes mainly to print books. Ebooks, hardly any cost, which is why it's also become so popular with authors nowadays.
So talk to us, Kyle, in conclusion before we have to go, and I want you to share your contact details, if you don't mind, for others, that are young and old, that are inspired by what they are hearing and the experience that you've got to share. Talk to us quickly about some of the joys and the difficulties of being an author.
There are a lot of joys being an author. I get to meet so many different people. And it's especially when people come and say they love what they read. One of the most beautiful messages that I ever got was from my newsletter. So there was a lady in, I think it was Sweden. She's blind. So she listens to one of my books via text-to-speech. And she tells me she loves my books. And that, as a author, that's something that really matters to you, because we don't get a lot of reviews.
Yes.
So reviews matters a lot. That's why we always push to get more reviews. The joys are when you're able to tell people, hey, I wrote a book, and when you hold it in your hand, that's a different type of experience. Holding the book yourself in your hand. When you get to meet people, when people come up asking for advice, it's a joy just to help other people how to do it. There aren't many difficulties if it's something that you love. For example, the only difficulty I had last year was pushing for that last 9th book.
Yeah.
Because I set a deadline for myself. So that was the only difficulty. Otherwise, there's not much difficulties. One thing that can be frustrating is trying to get sales.
Yes.
Because especially in South Africa, people don't like reading books. I've learned that people do not like reading books. Most of my sales come from America.
Wow.
So, that can be frustrating, because I'm a South African. I love South Africa, and I would like South Africans to read my books. But there's a small frustration.
Yeah.
But the joys of being a writer overshadows all of the difficulties.
But also from a business perspective, I think you've pointed out some key things. One is the low recurring cost. Two is, the fact that, like you're saying, your product can be sold to markets, beyond your geographical border. And you don't have the especially with ebooks, you don't have to worry about carrying stock and couriering stock and that kind of thing. So there's also a low sort of operational cost if you are going to really push this as your career.
Yes, I have an author friend who is very helpful, and he's doing very good. He tells me that all of his sales, he focuses on only ebooks. He doesn't do any print books. All his sales, he focuses on America and the UK, because that's where he makes the money.
Yeah.
Especially now with the conversion rates. So when you sell to an American, you get a lot of money.
Yeah.
So he says he focuses all his advertising, all his marketing to America and the UK. He doesn't focus any advertising to South Africans because they don't buy books.
Yeah.
So and because it's ebooks, there's not a lot of cost on him except the advertising cost.
All right, Kyle, we are fast running out of time, and I can speak to you for another hour, but I don't have that on my program. Before you share your contact details, I think just a detail that we forgot to share earlier is that in terms of the type of books that you write as an author, because again, there are different types of books. They are, they are leadership books, they are teaching manuals, and all of that. What do you write?
I focus mainly on adventure and fantasy. Although within my books there's romance, there's comedy, everything involved. But the main genres that I relate to is fantasy, fantasy sagas, fantasy series, adventure.
Yeah.
That's the main focus that I write.
And I want to end on that note, because you are a young man that is absolutely in love with Jesus, and that is your first accolade. And, you know, I think as Christians, we tend to also box ourselves in and think that certain things are not, you know, I'm not allowed to think fiction, I'm not allowed to think, you know, adventure or whatever it might be. But you are inspired out of your walk with God and just all the journeys He's taken you on in life, and you know, and you are exploring genres that are, because that is what you are interested in, that is fun for you. As a Christian, just talk to us. What would you like to say to people to motivate them, to inspire them, to just share your heart with them?
For me, I would say, if you read your Bible and you open your eyes to it and you look, you see there's a lot of supernatural things. God is a creative God. He created the world, He created people, and He created people in His image, and He created them to be creative. So if they are going to be in His image, they are going to have to be creative. Learn to create something. Yeah. Whether you're creating leaders, whether you are creating your own worlds, whether you are creating, you know, a good environment as a conservationist maybe, where you're creating joy and entertainment, become a creator. Something that creates something, because your God is a creative God. And don't shun people that are trying actually to be creative as they do.
Kyle, please, are you willing to share your contact details? Where can people get hold of you if they just want to take this conversation further, glean a little bit more from your experiences? How many years has this been for you now, since the age of 18? My math is not good. You're the math teacher.
This is now my 9th year.
So from your 9 years of experience, if people want to learn from you, where can they reach you?
If people want to contact me, they can contact me via my Facebook page, Kyle Jantjies Author, my Instagram page, also Kyle Jantjies Author, and then I have a website where all extra contact details is with my email address and my number. The website is Kyle Jantjies Author.
And that's
KYLEJANTJIES.
Author.
Yes.
.co.za or .com?
.co.za.
Wonderful. So it's Kyle Jantjies Author .co.za. And then Facebook and Instagram at Kyle Jantjies.
Yes, I have a few people that already messaged me on there. Okay. And I always try to respond very quickly.
Wonderful. Kyle, we have run out of time. Thank you so much. You've inspired me. I'm sure you've inspired many of our friends listening. You know, we know there are people sitting with dreams, even a word from God, to have pursued writing a book. And I hope that what you've shared this evening would have just unleashed that breakthrough in their lives. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me, Kim.
Keep well. Bye.
Bye.